Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today I am so excited to share with you a cool toned, soft, muted summer party ready makeup look. Let's jump right into this Smokey party ready tutorial. So, I've already done my base and that is a whole thing on its own. So I have removed all my facial hair and matching is really difficult. Finding a foundation match is tricky. I feel for all of you. Soft muted summer, we want our complexion to be neutral to cool, as that's the overall undertone of the palette. My skin tone, neutral to cool, I've gone through, neutralized any redness I have, so we have a very blank canvas to start off with. In the process of applying my base makeup, I went ahead and applied a little bit of eyeshadow primer. I'm just gonna use my flat eyeshadow brush to give it one more blend over. That way I can powder it and we can move on to applying the shadow. If you are looking for a soft summer makeup tutorial that is a little bit more everyday, I highly suggest you check out the soft muted summer video from 2022, and that was a lot more of an everyday wearable look. And thank you all. That video last year did way better than I was expecting, and today it's one of my top performing videos. So thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoy this video as much as that one. So I'm just going to take my face powder and press over my eye base, and then once I've done both sides, I'm going to just gently wipe over and flick away any of the excess powder. This way my lid is set, but there's no color as an eyeshadow to dilute everything, because I think I want to take a slightly different approach to this than I do my normal kind of smoky eye palette. For soft muted summer, I have pulled 4 of my favorite Sydney Grace eyeshadows and one of her highlighters. And when I put the colors together here, I felt like there was a similarity with a quad that I already owned, and I think some of you might already have this, but the Viseart Petite 4 in the shade Lilas is a very similar color story. This is a great everyday eyeshadow quad for soft muted summers who want something that you can take from day to night. For day, I like to say you can just use one of the mattes and one of the shimmers, and then for night you can kind of play with all of them and really dial it up. And this is such a great little workhorse quad, and you can get this on sale for a really reasonable price. And one more recommendation for soft muted summer, if you are someone who wants options, you want a little bit of warm, a little bit of cool, and you just want a great palette of neutral eyeshadows that you can create any look from day to night, I love the ColourPop Stone Cold Fox palette. This is going to give you a great mix of neutral warm, and neutral cool undertoned shades, so you can really create a great mix. And everything in this palette is very smoky and very hazy, so you can really drive home that hazy or foggy quality that the soft muted summer palette has. I'm going to start off with my mid-tone color. This is from Sydney Grace. This is a Sydney Grace matte eyeshadow in the shade Embrace, and I'm going to use a Rephr number 14 brush to get started. For my smoky eye, I don't know what shape I want to do. I don't know if I want to go more elongated or if I want to go slightly more rounded and really kind of pull open the space, really increase the vertical height of my eyes. So I think I'm going to do that because my face is rather long. It feels very obvious now, so I want to make my eyes look taller to take up more space on my eyes. So with that mid-tone shade, I want to look straight ahead in the mirror, look at my eyes, find the highest point of the socket of my eye. So you can use your finger at the back end of your brush, gently feel the socket of the eye, kind of feel where the bone meets the ball of the eye, and that high point of the round is where I'm going to start with my shadow. I'm going to place my brush there, gently wiggle side to side. I want the most product to be right here at this top round because that is my focal point. That is going to be the highest point this eyeshadow look goes. So there, I'm going to use the round of my eye to guide my brush. Normally when we apply our crease eyeshadow, following this orbital bone and feeling, let that socket be our guide, but I want a more rounded look, and just to make it easy, keeping my brush on the ball of the eye and going back and forth like a windshield wiper motion, making these semicircle motions is just going to help everything stay really round. Now, if you're someone and you feel like the ball of your eye is smaller and you want it to look larger like I do, great thing you can do is get a little bit more product on your brush. So when you place your brush, instead of placing it straight in, so instead of going in and at a flat angle, tilt it up almost at about a 45-degree angle. That is going to push your shadows out a little bit more. So I'm gonna start right there in the middle again. We go back and forth, and you'll see now the shadow is just expanding. It's starting to kind of diffuse out, which is going to make the overall roundness of the eye look bigger, like it's taking up more space. Now I've already done my lower concealer, so I'm gonna go ahead and do the same step for my lower. So again, you can use your finger, your brush, but here is the bottom of the ball of my eye. So I want to find that lowest point. I'm gonna start right there, and then I'm gonna go back and forth. Now on the inner corner, I tend to keep this open just to once again kind of keep this inner white of the eye very open and very bright. So instead of taking that all the way in, I kind of take it, I almost go just about, I leave like the inner fourth open. And then when I get to this outside, I can use the ball of the eye and I can round up and meet the shadow that we've done on the upper eye. So at the end, you can pretty much place your brush here at the beginning and create a circle. That's gonna be an overall shape for the roundness of the eye. So looking at the eyeshadow I use, the color Embrace from Sydney Grace, this looks like a pretty standard mid-tone rosy mauve shade. These type of colors are great for the soft muted summer color palette, but it's a color that is very dependent of your skin tone. And seasonal color analysis is not one size fits all. Not all pale skinned people are gonna be one color palette. All deeper skin tones are not gonna be another palette. Any skin tone can be any color palette. It's all relative. Sorting differs from grouping of people to grouping of people to grouping of people as the skin tone and overall features change. Everything's gonna be relevant. Pale skinned, soft muted summer is gonna look very different from a medium skin tone or a deep dark skin tone. As your skin tone gets darker or lighter, you're going to need to adjust. And it gets a little bit trickier for deeper skin tones because a color like this on a dark skin tone, that gray base is going to pull out and it's gonna look ashy and sooty and gray around the eyes. Why it can work, that is not the effect we want here. We want this to feel slightly warm on the eyes. So we want it to come forward. We want it to really radiate forward and captivate the attention, because this is gonna kind of be the halo around the eye. So now I'm gonna continue on with that same eyeshadow Embrace, and we are creating a rounded shape. But what I want to do is I want to start from here on the lower and drag slightly out, meet the tail of my brow, and then pull back in. You are going to get a little bit of an elongation, and for a lot of people this is going to be a little bit more flattering than just a pure round look, because if your eye is slightly downturned or hooded and you just have that rounded shape, it can look a little small and a little droopy, which is opposite of what we want to do. We want to keep everything looking lifted and bright. So just slightly extend out, cut back in, and then fill in that little gap that it'll have right here. Even though we're creating that angle, the end product, this is still going to look round and not like an elongated cat eye shape. We are creating a smoky eye look, so this can get a little messy. If it looks messy and it looks like something's gone horribly wrong, you're probably going in the right direction. So with my second color, I'm gonna move into the darkest color, and this is the shade Officer from Sydney Grace, and I'm gonna use a flat shader brush. This is a Refer number 2 brush. And with this color, I want to tilt my chin up, because since I've already done my base makeup, I want to help eliminate any type of fallouts. Having the shadow on one side of my brush, tap off the excess, tilt my chin up, look down, that empty space here in the inner portion of that circle we've created, I'm going to lightly stamp this all over the lid. I'm gonna go back to my previous brush, the Refer number 14. I'm not gonna use any additional product. There's still gonna be some of that rosy shade, and right on that edge of that eyeshadow, I'm gonna go back and forth and just blend that darker gray into this rosy shade. Now for this part, it's optional. You can either follow along with me or you can leave it. I'm gonna take a little bit more of that dark shadow, tap it off, and I want to apply it on the lower lash line. So think about keeping that lower lash line as fourths. Keep the inner fourth of the eye open, and using my brush, I'm gonna tilt my chin up And then we go back to the reference number 14 brush, no additional product. I'm gonna angle my brush up towards that darker shadow. I'm gonna buff side to side. We want the two colors to blend and meld, but we don't want to overblend. We don't want this to become muddy, but we want this darker color to act as a base. On the community page, I put up little polls every now and then, so all of you can vote for the next look that wins. And the winner for the soft muted summer look was a very metallic smoky eye. The look that was done in that picture is silver, but to put my own spin, I'm taking a little bit more of a mauvey direction, as mauve and grays are two of the strongest power players for the soft muted summer color palette. They just work so well. So I want to create that nice smoky base for the eye, but I don't want it to become too stark because we don't want to go into that kind of raccoon eye territory. So keep it a little bit darker, but remember it's a base. We're going to end up covering up most of it, but these steps are going to be worth it. So I'm going to go back to that rosy mauve shade. I'm gonna leave my lower lash line where it is, but I wanna add one more thin layer of the darker shade to my upper lash line, but this time I'm gonna really focus on pressing it here on the lower mobile lid. I'm gonna pick up a little bit more of that rosy shade, and then I'm gonna blend right over. This look on its own, it's almost reminded me of Taylor Momsen's character from the original run of Gossip Girl. I never really watched the show, but I remember seeing promos. She had like that kind of edgy punk rock look, and her eyeshadow was always like this smoky dark gray or charcoal color, and it had some type of red flares to it. So that's giving me that vibe, but that is not the vibe we're going for today. We are gonna go for something a little bit more subtle, despite it looking like this. Just hang in with the process. So now I'm gonna go back to that flat eyeshadow brush that I used for my base. This is the Hourglass number 3 all over eyeshadow brush, and I want to use my shimmery shade. This is the pressed pigment from Sydney Grace in the shade Winter Garden. But before we start with the brush, I want to take my finger and I am just going to apply a little bit with my finger right onto my lid. Using your finger really helps to press pigment into the skin, and I want to focus here in the center of my eye and then gently tap out. I'm going to apply this color all over that dark base we just applied. And I'm gonna take a little bit more and I'm gonna go right over the darker color on the lower lash line. Now I can go back to my brush with some of the product on it, and I can use this to start picking up and adding more intensity, but also start to feather this into the rosy shade. I want the two colors to meet and blend together, but I don't want it to overtake that previous shade. Same thing on the lower. So I'm going to take a clean fluffy brush. This is the BK Beauty number 201 and a matte flesh toned eyeshadow. So anything that is close to your skin tone. This is Sydney Grace eyeshadow in Drift. I want to use this color now to go on the upper edge of the eyeshadow. So where that rosy shade meets my skin, I want to start softening and blending that together. Same thing on the lower lash line, blend and soften. Now that I have this darker shimmer on, I want to just start bouncing and stippling some of this rosy shade here on the outer edge of the eye. Then I'm gonna go back to that large fluffy brush that we were using. No additional product, I just want to soften that over. Now I'm gonna go in with a black eyeliner. Technically, soft muted summer wouldn't use black. They would use like a smoky charcoal, but I wanna use a very fine off black pencil with a little bit of a shimmer to it. The one I'm gonna use is the Sephora Collection 12-Hour Colorful Eyeliner Pencil. This is the shade 02 Clubbing Stilettos. I wanna keep my eyeliner focused right over the center. Take it to the inner and outer corner, but I wanna keep it very, very thin. Go back to that small smudge brush. We're not gonna add any more product, but you'll still have some of that residual charcoal color. What I wanna do now is place my brush on the outer edge of that eyeliner we just applied and pull towards the center. That's going to help round the eye, but pull more of that product towards the center, so it's gonna add emphasis and pull the eye upwards. Same thing for the inner corner. where I applied it over top of that shimmer and then smudged it, it feels more of like a deep dark navy and less like a black pencil. And that thanks to that little bit of shimmer in the formula, it lets it spread out and diffuse a little bit more easily. For the lower lash line, I want to use this a little bit more sparingly. I'm going to analyze my eye. I want to start here in the center and I want to kind of follow my lower lash line. But when I get here, I want to round up, and then being rather quick with this, I'm going to go right into the other brush and gently smudge over. And then I'm gonna go back to that large fluffy brush I was using to apply the shimmer. No additional product. Right on the edge of that lower eyeliner, I'm gonna go over and buff over to smooth and soften. Now I'm gonna go back, use my finger again. I'm gonna pick up more of that shimmer eyeshadow, and I want to press this over top of the eyeliner that we've done on the top. For the lower lash line, I'm gonna use my brush. If you are not a soft summer, or you're someone who these kind of more smoky, rosy tones are a little bit more tricky to wear around the eye, because sometimes they can do what they do to my eyes and they can make them look very, very red. I'm going to add a drop of Lumify to each eye. So I've read that this is safe to use daily. I only use it for special occasions. So I'm gonna apply one drop to each eye and I'll be right back. So now while I wait for the eye drops to kick in, I'm gonna go ahead and use a metallic silver eyeliner. This is the NYX Epic Wear liner stick in the shade Silver Lining. Add a little bit of a catch light highlight here on that inner fourth of the eye. And then here on the upper eye, I just like to feather in to meet the shimmer so it's connected to the lower lash line. You can just kind of see side to side, this eye just kind of pops a little bit. I like to use this silver pencil to really contrast and open up the eyes. So I'm gonna run the silver pencil on my lower inner waterline. Now we're gonna leave the eyes where they're at. We're gonna move on to the face. I want to add a little bit of warmth and a little bit more structure to the face. I'm gonna use the Chanel Jus Contrast, and this is in shade 02 Rose Bronze. I'm gonna use a large fluffy powder brush. Even though this is a blusher, it has a little bit more warmth to it. It's a warm rosy tone. I'm gonna use this almost like I would a bronzer. Focus up high. Sydney Grace pressed highlighter in the shade Melody for number 5 brush. And here on the high point of my cheekbone, I'm just going to work that color, and I'm gonna overlap the Chanel Rose Bronze and also work this onto the front of the apple of my cheek, as I'm going to use this as a highlighting blusher. This is to serve as the base for my primary blush tone, but I want it to glow. And something else I think is fun is the residual product. Run it through the outer edge of the shadow, and it helps to blend the shadow into the blush, and it gives it this really fun editorial feeling. Next, we're gonna add our blusher, and if there's one blush Soft Summer owns, I feel like it should be Hourglass Ambient Lighting Blush in the shade Mood Exposure. This is going to be best for people who have fair to, I would say, medium skin tones, but I have heard of some more medium to tan and some dark skin tones making the shade work as well. But the way I want to use this blusher is, again, with the Refer number 5 brush. I'm gonna tap off the excess. I'm going to overlap both the Sydney Grace highlight, the Chanel, and then I'm gonna wrap it into this outer corner of the eyeshadow. The placement is slightly tiptoeing into that 1980s contoury blusher trend, which, even though I wasn't born in the 80s, it's always been something that I've just loved. I remember seeing a makeup tutorial Lisa Eldridge did, oh goodness, at least 10 years ago, when she did a model's makeup, and it was like a 1980s Grace Jones inspired makeup look, and she talked about this blush placement that draped into the temples and then faded into the shadow, and I love it. And that similar arc of blush has become really trendy over the last couple months with TikTok and it being cited as a lifting technique. I just like the fun way it ties into the eyeshadow. Now I'm gonna use a little bit of lip liner. I am using my teeny tiny Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk lip liner, and I'm just going to line and fill in the corners of my lip. My lip color is the Blur Fudge Tint from Roman, and this is in the shade 06 Mauvish. And now I want to use a little bit of a more nude lipstick. This is a color I love for both soft muted summer and soft muted autumn, because you know I love to borrow from those neighboring color palettes. And the color Mauvish. This is also a really pretty everyday color for a deep dark winter. So the color I'm going to use is MAC Amplified Lipstick in the shade Blankety. And I'm going to apply this over top of Mauvish. I'm gonna put a little mascara on. I feel like maybe that's throwing me off. The Clinique Lash Power Mascara. This is the shade 04 Dark Chocolate, which is a really nice dark chocolatey brown. Overall, I'm very happy with the look, but I feel like it needs a little bit more blush. And also, when I opened this ColourPop palette earlier, I am going to use the color Magnetic Moon from the ColourPop Stone Cold Fox palette. And I'm just going to use this with my finger, and I want to press it right over the very center of the eyelid. And then just right on the very inner corner, and use another finger to soften those out. And that's just gonna add that kind of highlight pop to the eye. And that's the thing I love about the color Winter Garden from Sydney Grace, is it can go blue, purple, red, but you throw on a more icy color and it just melts into it. And for good measure, just a little bit of a blend on the edge. We have our final smoky eye party ready soft muted summer makeup look. This is very fascinating. This turned out differently than I was expecting it to. It's giving me somewhere between New Year's, maybe a holiday party, or you're going to a Barbie movie disco party. I think it's a lot of fun, and I like how everything came together to just create the look. Let me know what you think of the final soft muted summer party ready makeup look in the comment section down below. If you found this video enjoyable and informative, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more fun, mostly cool tone related makeup content. Until we see each other again, I hope you're taking care of yourself wherever it is you are in the world, and I will see you later. Bye, y'all.